All right, free radicals, Bernie Kratz, Tulsi Kratz, and everyone else. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for becoming patrons over on Patreon. Again, there is a Patreon logo. It's located on the top right part of my YouTube banner on this page. I'm Dave. I'm just a regular guy. I'm typically talking about music on my other YouTube channel, and here I am doing politics. Why? Because it's the end of the world as we know it, and I don't really feel fine about it. It's very interesting to me that Steven Crowder has kind of gone out on a limb to some degree to defend Tulsi Gabbard because here's why. Because he knows they're coming for his candidate. They're coming for people who don't conform to the establishment narrative. People on both the left and the right, whether you're a Kyle Kalinske fan, you're a Tim Black fan, you're a Tim Pool fan. By the way, Pool is an interesting guy because he's been hardcore on the left. He's now kind of just searching. The guy's searching for truth. He wants to know what's true and what's not. Crowder, firmly on the right, but understands the implications of what's occurring to Tulsi Gabbard. And Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, gets all the credit in the world right now for pushing this forward. If she launched her presidential campaign with the stealth idea that she was going to try to restore free speech to our government, our public institutions, colleges, which have become like the bastion of the cancel culture. That's when I think of universities, especially the ones you have to pay big bucks for, they regulate all kinds of activity and especially speech. And whether you agree with conservative thoughts or ideas, whether you agree with left-wing type ideas, guess what? Those ideas need to be out in the public marketplace. We need to be able to hear those ideas and then decide for ourselves what's right and what's not right, and vote accordingly, do what we normally do within our daily life according to the things that we learn and so forth. I never thought the United States of America would be where we are now. I remember during the 1980s, the liberals were running around defending people like Larry Flynt, if you remember, because free speech was the bedrock, the foundation. But a lot of conservatives, a lot of prudish conservatives, didn't think that qualified, that was obscenity, and obscenity isn't protected. Well, the liberals argued correctly that obscenity should be protected, even if you find it very offensive, which many of us do. But it should be in the open marketplace of ideas. If I understand the Founding Fathers correctly, their notion of free speech was that the most egregious of speech needed to be protected. The most offensive of words needed to be protected, other than maybe, yelling fire in a crowded theater and that sort of thing. So Crowder here explains what's happening over on YouTube. This is a nicely edited soundbite. We're going to listen to it together, and then I'm going to come back and do some more commentary on what this means for Tulsi Gabbard, the Democratic Party, the two-party paradigm, the news media, the whole thing.
YouTube in the past has consistently argued that their algorithms, policies, are often geographically dependent. That's something that we were told. It's something that many of you have been told. If that's the case, I would implore YouTube, could you please explain to me, your shareholders, and in all likelihood, a congressional hearing, why you believe it most appropriate in serving your audience to block the content of a United States presidential candidate exclusively in the country in which she is running?
There you go. And look, give Crowder credit. I know, again, there are people watching me that aren't fans of Steven Crowder. I've learned to kind of consume different media. And when I say that, doesn't mean I'm a stealth conservative still, doesn't mean any of this. It means I've got to know what people are saying about certain subjects. So again, it's free speech. I can process all of that and come to my own conclusions. Crowder believes in the free market. He believes in conservative principles. I understand what he believes in. I don't agree with a lot of things that he talks about. But on some of the more tribal aspects of what's happening currently in our media landscape, I do side with Steven Crowder at times, because we're not talking about issues. We're talking about ridiculous things. And typically it's the liberal left, not the progressive left. And there is a difference. This is what I've learned doing this now for a few months, is that the liberal left doesn't like progressive ideas. They don't like them. They don't like Medicare for all. They don't like free college tuition. They don't like forgiving student loan debt. Can you imagine that? That's just, what a boost to the economy to give people a second chance after they were duped originally into going to this expensive college because some misguided high school guidance counselor came along and said, hey, if you want to get a real job, a good job, you got to go to this college for 4 years. It's expensive, but it's a ticket, to a prosperous life, and you'll never have to worry, and you'll have a great job. And yeah, those people could probably be prosecuted for something. Nobody would ever hold any of these people accountable for giving out really bad advice. But when the government is handing out student loan money, like Pez candy, it gets to be a little bit addictive and easy. And you just say, hey, I'll pay this back later. Imagine, you're 21 years old, and now you're kind of screwed for the rest of your life under the weight of this. Most Republicans don't care. They just don't. And it's sad, because they should be working at least on programs that would forgive this, that would, of course, they're never against these giant bloated military budgets. They talk about infrastructure. Well, what about personal infrastructure? What about our economic infrastructure, in the sense that if people were sold this bill of goods when they were going to college, and they come out and then this happens to them, okay, and we're not concerned about that. See, Tulsi Gabbard is concerned about it. Bernie Sanders is concerned about it. I don't even know if Andrew Yang, I'm trying to think of people who are concerned about this issue. Elizabeth Warren has floated something out there. I hear Elizabeth Warren now is starting to backpedal on a lot of her proposals, and I think if she backpedals too much, that momentum that she supposedly has, that's going to go back to Bernie Sanders, because Bernie has been steady, consistent. If you want the guy who you think is going to do something for you, you would pick Bernie Sanders or Tulsi Gabbard. Because both of those candidates have a set of beliefs, and it's a core. It's not just doing this and saying, oh yeah, the wind is blowing this way. Elizabeth Warren, Mayor Pete, again, who is now the candidate of late October, and probably will go into November. They're going to try like heck to prop him up. Why? I don't know. There are way more difficulties with Mayor Pete than even with Elizabeth Warren, and yet they're trying the Mayor Pete thing again. I think Kamala is toast, and hopefully she will call it quits soon. I hear Tim Ryan called it quits. Another casualty of Tulsi Gabbard, by the way. Look, Tulsi is very effective, and that's why her message needs to get out. And what was interesting yesterday is I did that first video about this same topic. And I said, I guarantee you this video is going to get demonetized. And it didn't. It didn't get demonetized. Very strange, because there were a lot of meaty subjects in there that were pointing the finger at my employers. Okay? Because that's who I'm employed by. Indirectly. I'm kind of like a private contractor. They pay me via this AdSense stuff. And, if enough people watch the videos, they pay me some money. It's a really interesting business arrangement, and it would work really well if my content would just go out there and people were able to find it easily. And this is what Crowder's trying to say about what happened with Tulsi Gabbard. If this censorship, this blackout for information continues, there's no question that we need and we should have alternative platforms to go to. Just like with alternative parties to the two-party system, in the next few years, we're going to see, I think, a complete realignment. This is like the old tech that we're watching here. YouTube, this is going to be considered old tech like MySpace someday. And people are going to be like, why would you still be on YouTube? They censor you. They block content. They shut you down. They'll take your videos off if you don't, play by every little unknown rule that they establish. Whereas somebody's going to come along with a really good platform. It's going to happen. And advertisers, they're going to flock there because you know why? Because people are going to be watching those videos. This is what I mean by freedom of speech. I mean, people want freedom. They want to gravitate toward the places where they feel like their message can be heard and where none of these overlord activities are going to deter them or discourage them. And, when it comes to Tulsi Gabbard, when she said, hey, I think this entire thing is rigged, and the mainstream media, by the way, which lives in their own bubble, but also I do believe that they are just conditioned and may even have some type of marching orders. They might have some marching. You want a conspiracy? They might have, hey, look, these are your top tier candidates. These are the ones you can talk about. These are the ones you need to promote. We need to throw a bone to these fringe candidates every so often just to make it look like we're doing something that we're not, that we're giving everybody a fair shake. But from the day Tulsi Gabbard announced, she was getting pummeled, Assad toady. What's the toady? And then, the person who says this, they don't even know what the word toady means. Joe Rogan, I think, had to go look it up and explain it. And the way they start to push, and then everyone else starts to repeat it. You're Assad toady. This is what I heard. What does that mean exactly? Again, and they frame the questions. That Assad gassed his own people, right? Tulsi, right? Can you at least agree that Assad gassed his own people? Because if you don't agree there, then we can just prove you're insane right here. We can talk to every other liberal Democrat who knows for a fact, because they were there when that gas went out, even though an independent study, all right, not the United States, which is the way I'd want it, because this is our policy that we are trying to implement there, and we've thrown out false flags before in order to get things done. In fact, the way I look at it, this entire election process is kind of like a false flag. If you look at the strategy, it's the same type of thing that's happening. There's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of entertainment culture that distracts and keeps people off of what is truly important. People realized how many military bases we had all over the world and what a waste they are for the most part, and how much of our money is being devoted to that, how much of your tax dollars are going to that when we've got inner cities crumbling, we've got an exploding homeless population nobody seems to care about, we've got kids that are being undereducated in the public school systems, and some people are sending their kids to private school and paying for the lousy public schools at the same time. It's kind of like the Medicare choice thing, and I can explain that in another video. But the bottom line here is, it's funny that Steven Crowder, a guy who is on the right, is willing to go to bat for free speech, and many on the progressive left are silent, and some have even said Tulsi is just a centrist, and she's a poor sport, she's a sore loser, all of this crap that you would certainly put all of those characteristics onto Hillary Clinton, and rather than Tulsi Gabbard. When you look at the two women and their trajectory, one's a shady lawyer in Arkansas, and the other one has served her country, is in Congress, who understands issues in politics, who isn't playing political games, who just wants to be heard. The other one is still just firing off crazy rounds as, the neurons begin to maybe not fire or misfire, and it's only going to get worse. And this is why we need to be able to get Tulsi's message out. And thanks to Steven Crowder. Hey, if you don't like him, I'd be saying this about if it were any other commentator, but it's Crowder who does this big analysis on this stuff, and was even mentioned on Jimmy Dore yesterday. Crowder does and says some crazy crap, but here's the bottom line is we all need to be able to hear these concepts unfiltered. You need to be able to put in names and numbers and digits and so forth on YouTube and have your search turn up something that you're actually looking for. And I know with my videos and with other channels' videos, it's not that way. And I've never worked for an employer that purposely keeps things from you, who doesn't want you to be your best, who doesn't want to give you the tools to succeed. Think of that. I work for a company that doesn't give me tools to succeed. In fact, if I do something that becomes popular, they may tend to hide that or not share it or not promote it or not encourage me to do more of that. And you would think they would be a willing partner. As I've said before in other videos, they claim to be my partner, and yet partners don't do this stuff to one another. If you're not acting in good faith to me, then you're not my partner. If you're tamping down on videos that should be out there and getting lots of views because somehow the message of peace is threatening your entire world, which again I can't understand how or why. If you're tamping down on that, if you're trying to close off that, then there is truly something wrong with your business model. And by the way, that relates to the way we're doing politics right now. We truly have a problem when you've got two parties in America who are controlling pretty much everything. You've got a Green Party that can't get its act together. You've got a Libertarian Party that can't get its act together for some strange reason, almost like they're sabotaged from the inside, when you could recruit a great candidate out there and have them run on a Tulsi/Bernie platform and then watch as that party explodes. But instead, again, watch Jimmy Dore yesterday. He excoriated Howie Hawkins, who is somebody I was trying to pay attention to, but I've been told by many different sources that he's not the guy. And so what we really have to do is focus on Tulsi Gabbard. And at the end of it all, I don't know what we're going to do. If it's not Tulsi or Bernie, I don't know what we're going to do. It's got to be it this election cycle. We don't have much time left to figure out these large problems. And if we're not able to freely communicate, then guess what? It's all for naught. There's no reason to do all this. I would say drink, eat, be merry, go spend time with your family. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the world is collapsing. The economy will collapse. All these, I don't want to be apocalyptic here, folks, but if we really can't affect change, then why worry about it? Just, medicate yourself and just endure, Try to live your life. Try not to get in anyone else's way and just watch like you're watching the car wreck. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to come out here and be, like my other channel, I'm what I call an observer. Here I didn't want to be an observer. I wanted to be a participant. And what the government is telling me and what the media industrial complex is telling me is that you need to talk less. You need to just say the things that we think are okay. And it's a crazy business model to say, okay, you're now a partner. We're going to monetize your videos. But if you stray out of line, and by the way, we're not going to explain to you what you did wrong, but if you stray, you lose the privilege. You lose that access to the advertisers that we have. And then to say the videos aren't ad-friendly is just, what content have I ever done that's not ad-friendly? On both my channels, I've always been consistently positive and mostly profanity-free, mostly family-friendly, kid-friendly. So anyway, that's my video for today. Kudos to Crowder. And Tulsi Gabbard, she's got an uphill battle. And we're all part of that battle. And the battle, whether Tulsi succeeds or not, that battle has to keep going. We've got to take this back. We cannot be a democracy if we can't communicate freely. So there you go. See you soon.